Welcome to Make Limited Podcast, where we talk about inspirational people, motivational stories, and what makes us better humans. We are looking into the history of these narratives in search of insight into our future. Our podcast will hit all angles of each story from bad to good, revealing what it takes to climb out of the bottom of the pit. We like to say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's our motto, and we talk about it here. Welcome to Make Limited Podcast. Welcome everyone to Make Limited Podcast. I'm so glad you are joining me here on the final Blueprint episode for our first quarter of the year. It feels so good to say that, but don't worry, we're not done. We're just entering into the second part of the year, the second quarter of the year, where we'll be talking about the process, and it's going to be an amazing thing. Be a part of it. It's going to elevate your life. And if you are new here, welcome. We're so glad that you're listening today. Here you will get insights, be inspired, motivated, and become better humans. So subscribe today and become a part of the Make Limited Podcast family. You're gonna love it, and we're accepting you with open arms. And talking about subscribing, a huge welcome to our subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. We could not be here without you. I am your host, John, and today we have a special guest on our show talking about the endurance during challenging moments. Welcome everyone to Make Limited Podcast. My name is John. I am your host, and today we have a special guest. But before we start with the special guest, let's talk about a little bit of what we're talking about today. Today on the podcast, we're talking about the blueprint of endurance during challenging moments with Will. Okay, and what are we talking about today? Is life is like a race we have to run. Okay, along the way we can get tired and want to give up. It's the easiest thing to do, but it's not the answer. Today we have a special guest, Will, who talks about enduring challenging moments in life. So, who is Will? Will is the father of 3 beautiful children, a loving husband, a mentor, inspirational speaker, an innovator, leader in his community, multi-instrumentalist, musician, a pastor in the Church of the Overcomers, loves the process of life, and lives life to the fullest of peace, faith, and love. Will, welcome to Make Limited Podcast.
Hey, John, thank you, man. Appreciate it. So glad to be here. This is my first time doing this podcast, so kind of first time, but man, I really am excited to be in here in your podcast, man. Good seeing you too, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. It has been a awesome time. We were talking before this, and we're talking about Will's family and how he's been growing as a father, and it's been an awesome story to hear. And so let's get right into it. And we're talking about the endurance during challenging times. What do you think when you hear that? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I think my first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the endurance during challenges, just don't give up. Like you mentioned earlier, the easiest route is always to give up, to give into it, to stop and to turn around and kind of not deal with it. But you'll learn through life that what you don't face today, you're still gonna have to face tomorrow. So giving up is never the answer. It's not really a choice for most of us who really want to see things grow in our life. We want to experience things in our life. We have to endure a race. We have to endure our fight. We have to just keep pressing on. And those times are going to get challenged, that's for sure. We're going to be challenged in every aspect in our lives, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so that's something automatically we're going to deal with, the challenge. And so, but endurance, I think that's the key to it. It's not getting rid of the situation, but outlasting the situation. So that's what I think about when I hear that, bro.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful thing because I think the what pops out in this, phrase, endurance during challenging moments, it's the word endurance. It's like you said, it's that consistent of nonstop, and
Right.
and it's something that we face on a daily basis. And throughout the podcast, we've been talking about different situations that people have gone through, and it's one of the inspirations for Make Limited Podcast. And it's been a process, right? And the growth moment and how we've seen other people grow. How would you say that we should face some of these challenging moments in our life? And have you had any challenging moments in your life?
Well, there's a couple of ways you could do it. Of course, there's always that practical side of it and the spiritual side of it. And I think the best way to approach it is by understanding that the challenge that you're facing, number one, everyone is facing them. Not that's the way you are, but the key to this is this: when you're saying it is endurance in challenging moments. That if we ever come to understand that what we're going through is just a moment, that means it's just a part of your life that you're going through. That means you're not gonna stay in that moment forever. It's just you're just going through a moment. And I think a lot of us, when we get in those moments, it feels like, man, we're there for a long time, like for a long time. And I think that's when everybody becomes discouraged because they don't see the end to where they're in. But this is how I face it. Number one, the way I do it is where I put my faith in, where I believe in, and I think that that's really comes to it. That if you have something you believe on or you believe in, then you won't settle for nothing less. And if you have nothing you believe in for, in other words, you got no hope for something, you're gonna find yourself stuck in that moment forever.
Hmm.
But if I believe in, like I myself believe in God, and I believe He's my strength, He's gonna help me through this. Then, so therefore, I know that there's somebody's gonna help me through that moment, because I realize I'm not here forever. I'm here for a moment. So and you were asking, if you ever been through it, man. I've been through quite a bit. I think one of my most challenging moments was back. I think maybe I want to say about 6 years ago. We had our first son, Isaiah, and I think our challenging moment at that time was because the doctor had told us, something was wrong with my son's heart, and so they sent us to a specialist, and it was kind of, hard for us as parents. We were new parents, first time, our first kid, and so it was challenging because we didn't know what the outcome is. And I remember walking to the specialist, a doctor checked my kids, and then another doctor came in check, and then here comes another doctor, and they all walk out, and so so they walk in to the waiting. We were there in the room, and I remember the doctor telling my wife to sit down. When they tell you that, it's like, oh man, something bad is about to happen. And even before we got there, once the doctor had told us that there was something abnormal for my son's heart, I remember going home that day, man, and being challenged by the thoughts of what could it be, and what's gonna happen. What if he dies? What if it's a disease? What? And you start being challenged. So I was being challenged mentally, emotionally, and so during that time, I'm a challenge. I remember then we went to the doctor the following week, and it was challenging. And then you see this doctor come in and go out, and then they tell you to sit down. Everything's coming through your head. But I remember the night before that, I remember as my son was laying down in bed, he was sleeping. I remember praying for him, and just saying again, this is what I believed in. You know what I mean? So I believe that, God, you're in control, and whatever happens to tomorrow to my son, or what I mean, I know this is part of the moment that you have is in. And so and so I remember going back that evening, that next day, to the doctors. The doctors came in, kind of just freaking us out. And out of nowhere, that he tells us, you know what? I don't know what the other he told us, I don't know what the other doctor saw. He said, but there's nothing wrong with the kid's heart. Everything is normal. He's good. And
Wow.
so I think those moments like that puts you in the very edge. You gotta believe in something, because if you don't believe in anything, you're gonna find yourself without hope. And it's so for me, when I was being challenged in those times, man, I had my hope in God that He would somehow make a miracle, or help us through this process or this moment that we were going through.
Wow. That's that's a tough one, man, because it's I can empathize with that because it's a tough thing, especially when it comes
Yeah,
from someone who is like super close, like
yeah.
like a son, right, or a daughter. It is just that much. How did you? in that time of moment, because this is what interests me, and on every path that everyone goes through, is in that moment of time where the doctor tells you you go home. You have to be strong for your family. As a father, you have to be strong for your kids. You got to be strong for everyone. But when you are alone in that time, what what went through through you that you know that really pushed you to be strong the next day and the following day until you met the doctor? Like, what was that main thing that really pushed you? And I know we're saying God, but what is, how can I say, where I'm trying to get to is, what words or what process did you think and led you to, like, what, everything's gonna be okay?
Well, I guess I would say I have to say, because I remember when you're in that moment, it's hard to even register everything that you have previously taught yourself to do in those moments, and that's a lot to everyone, what I mean, because the moment you hear bad news, you feel something, you're hurting, some, it's like your mind just starts going in different miles an hour, different directions. So you have to really come to this place where I had to come to just kind of just calm down myself, kind of find myself alone, kind of find. I remember just kind of just being in my living room. I remember I sat down, I kind of just laid down on my sofa, and I kind of just closed my eyes, kind of trying to get my body to relax, my mind to relax, my mind to kind of just ease of all the thoughts that was going in my mind. Kind of making slow down. As a father, you worried for
Hmm.
for your family, and I remember as the thoughts were coming in mind, I was trying to slowly processing, trying to slow those thoughts down. You know, because a lot of times when you're thinking about something that hasn't even existed yet, it worries you. So if
Hmm.
you're thinking about, I don't think I'm gonna pass my test. You start worrying about something that it doesn't even exist. You don't even know if you pass your test or not.
Yeah.
So that was in the moment that I was in. I was like, oh man, thinking about something that it hasn't even exist yet. So, and a lot of time we worried so much like that, and that's what would get us a lot of time to say, you know what, I'm done. In reality, a lot of time we kind of quit on ourselves because we're overthinking things that don't even have come to an existence, but because our mind are going in a million directions, you're coming out with all these thoughts. So I had to come to that place, kind of just chill, relax, let your mind slow down, and just really think. Okay, and that's when I go back to what I believe into. And so that's what I had to do. That's the practical thing I had to do. I had to really slow my mind down
Mhm.
completely to be able to process what was going on.
Wow. Slow your roll,
Yeah.
and that's, and this is what endurance looks like. I think in some way, when we talk about endurance in challenging times, we romanticize the what we do in that moment, and we talk about this and we talk about that. And I think that the main process is very simple. It's the process is where you sit down and you just literally have to put yourself back together.
Yeah.
You fell over the wall like Humpty Dumpty. You broke your strong shell that looks strong on the outside broke, and you need to put yourself together and move forward. You know,
Right.
and that's, wow. That's a powerful story with endurance and challenging moments. Have you ever like talked to someone about endurance? Have you ever like motivated someone in a sense to when they were dealing with something? Um, how did you come into that sense of bringing your experience or bringing your belief into motivating them or inspiring them to endurance? Because I know like in Sundays or on Wednesdays you talk about this in through a speech form. So in that area, how do you say to someone in the time of struggling, endurance is one of the keys to keep going?
Yeah. Well, there's a thing one there because a lot when people are going through these moments, uh, I can relate to that a lot because I know what it is when you kind of hit that panic mode button. And it's kind of, because that's everybody. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, no matter how spiritual or how manly you are, how strong you think you are, everybody will hit the panic button when you receive a news unexpectedly or you receive a news that you don't want to hear. You know what I mean? So a lot of time when I work with these people at church, which really that's where all my uh, encouragement really goes to, or to people at work, kind of. I kind of remind him always this one thing, and I said this. Listen, and it's what I mentioned earlier. I tell him, first of all, I said we don't know the outcome of this yet.
Hmm.
So therefore, I said because we and I don't know the outcome of it, we can still have hope for a good one.
Hmm.
Uh, and this is why I tell people you gotta hope for the best, for better, because if you're not hoping for better, for best, I said you're gonna find yourself more stressed out, more worrisome. And it's not so much a mindset, but it's more of an attitude. You know what I mean? Because now I tell people now you're in a place where you don't know what's gonna happen next. You don't know what's happening. I don't know if things gonna get worse or better,
Hmm.
but I tell you what, nothing's gonna change. But you living a life of saying, you know what, this is it. This is over. I'm done. You know what I mean? I said, but you can outlast this if you have hope. If you say, you know what, there is opportunity. There's a chance that this may turn around. There's an opportunity that this can get better. And it's like when I spoke with this man who were having trouble with his in his marriage, and he wanted to give up. And I said, do you know in 5 years from now, or even in 2 weeks from now, that she can turn around and maybe be a different person? This person said, well, I don't know. I said, that's right. We don't know. I said, so wouldn't you give yourself that chance and give yourself that hope and say, you know what? I might make it through.
Hmm.
So instead of quitting, push through. Instead of giving up, continue doing it. Because at the end, at least you can say, if it doesn't go the way you thought, at least you can say you tried. You know what I mean? And I think that's the goal. I think a lot of people don't see that. I think a lot of people just kind of give up on themselves and thinking like this is pretty much it. But I think if you can really say, you know what, I'll tell people, you know what, you don't know the end of this yet. So let's hope for the best. Let's see what coming up ahead. And that's how I encourage people to stay focused on the good side and not be driven so much by the negative things that will pull you down real quick down and discourage you.
Yeah, that's powerful. You know, and this is what I love when I hear, different things, especially in endurance, because you make a great point. We don't know the outcome of what is going to be ahead of us, right? We can only make predictions of things that we say, we do, choices that we could make, but at the end we don't know what's ahead. And we have to take that road. And sometimes that road is not going to be pretty, and sometimes that road is going to be a little bumpy. But, like you said, you got to get yourself together, put yourself together, and move forward.
Right.
Man, that's amazing, man.
You
Mind
know,
blowing.
I like to share a story with people all the time. Especially for those who are being challenged. And it's a story I've shared before all the time before I preach to, and I share the stories. And the story goes that there's this lady, right? This elderly lady. He walks to her pastor's or minister office, and he tells him, "Pastors, I'm going through some very difficult time." And the pastor on the other side of the desk shouted, "Oh, praise God, sister!" And the lady goes, "No, no, you don't understand." I said, "I'm going through something very difficult." And the pastor replied, "Well, hallelujah," out of excitement. So the lady goes, "No, no, I don't think you're listening to me." She said, "I'm going through a very hard, challenging time." And the pastor will again reply with excitement, "Well, praise the Lord." But this time, the lady was upset because she felt like the pastor was not being relating to her feelings. So
Mhm.
she said, "I don't know why you getting all excited over there, pastor." I said, "You're not listening to me. I'm telling you, I'm going through something." And at that moment, the pastor just kind of just stayed quiet and smiled at her, looked at her, and said, "You know what?" I said, "If you stop for a moment," she tells the lady, "if you stop for a moment and listen to yourself, you said you're going through something." He said, in other words, he said, "You're not staying in there. That means you just passing right through it. And if you're gonna go right through it, you're gonna come out of it." So just endure, outlast the situation, and you're gonna make it right through. Because again, you're just going right through it. And I
Wow.
like to share that story with people because I remind them that what the challenge that you're being faced is only a moment. You know what I mean? So we gotta outlast that moment and just hold on tight and believe and have hope that things are gonna turn out for the good for us.
That is a beautiful story. I think, in times like now, because we just came, it has been going on, but 2019 COVID started, right?
Yeah.
And all that was happening. um a lot of people were losing families, a lot of people were struggling, a lot of people, many situations were happening in the moment. 2020 came, another situation, and it was just like back to back to back.
Yeah.
Now we're in 2022, and we've seen this whole thing with Ukraine happening and all these things here happening in the United States. You know, I think this I would say podcast message is right on place where I think it's going to help a lot of people with the challenges that are coming ahead.
Right.
What do we say to people when we are at a state when we know that this year we don't know what's going to happen? How would you say or encourage people in a sense to prepare for anything that's coming in regards to endurance during challenging moments?
Well, one of the things that I would definitely say, because this is one thing I always say to people is, again, trust in the Lord. That's my main thing. I think that's for me. That's for my person. That's the cornerstone of my life. Is who am I trusting in? Because I'll tell you what, a lot of time we trust in things, but things can tend to fail us because nothing is perfect in this world. But as a trusting God, that's my main goal. I think that's my first thing I tell people: trusting God. You know what I mean? And then secondly, on, I tell people, live your life today. You know what I mean? As if today matters, but tomorrow may matter a little bit more. Because see, what we're facing, what we're not facing to today, someone else is facing it, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And like something that Pastor always says, you may not be going through it today, but tomorrow it might be your turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I like to tell people, how to prepare yourself for something like this. First of all, I think it's a little bit challenging to even prepare yourself for, because we don't know when that number is going to be called for us,
Right.
And so it can happen from a moment like in the next 2 minutes to in 2 years from now, or something that we actually are being challenged by with. But oh, you know, hold on, I think the guys keep turn it off. He's keep lifetiming me at the same time using the iPad. But I tell people, this is what I tell people to prepare themselves for challenges, stuff like this. Number one, trust God. Number two, I would definitely say, I mean, have a strong foundation in what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't let what you believe be shaken by what the things that comes against you. Because I think if you believe something, I think you stand firm in that, and when the challenge comes, you can outlast it if you hold on strong to what you believe in. And for example, that if you believe that if you believe that, for example, for your marriage, if your marriage is gonna last you forever, then hold on to that. Even if tomorrow something happens that makes you shake, like believe like, wait, I don't think it's gonna last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Believe that and hold on to that belief that you have, that if it's gonna last forever, continue believing, because that's what endurance means. Endurance means don't turn around, don't give up, don't give in. Hold on to what you believe in. And the same thing goes to anything you believe in, for that career, if you believe for that job or for that special one. Hold on to what you believe in and don't let go no matter what. Don't be moved, don't be shifted by people's opinion, by the events in life, but hold on to what you believe in.
Wow. I think that's a powerful thing to take into consideration, take to heart, and apply it to our lives. You know, and so we learned one, putting yourself together. Two, you got to keep going. And three is keep on, because every day is one day at a time. I like to say, and how I learned it is, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right?
Right.
And then I heard another way in saying, a man moves a mountain by moving, and I'm paraphrasing here, by moving one rock at a time.
Right.
And so when I heard that, it was like, it's relatable to eating an elephant, and it's not more, on that side. But, when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, because, I was raised, you were raised, in the church, right? And so one of the huge things that we learn is like, if you have faith, you can move mountains, right? But I never heard it in the sense of one rock at a time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we want to think, I want to move the whole mountain.
Right.
I want to get rid of the whole problem at once.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to face it one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, that is powerful. I mean, what do you think? What do you think about that?
No, I think that's a lot of picture of even in the religious kind of state of mind. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people when they hear that phrase like you have faith in the mountain, and they kind of think, okay, my challenge is gonna be over tomorrow if I have faith to believe, and that's not really how it works. Because I mean, faith is first and foremost, it's a process. It's a process, and faith is growing your belief. So it's not something that happens overnight. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, it's one rock at a time, one day at a time, one moment to another. The time is, I mean, whatever's happening, you gotta take it by the moment and be grateful for those moments. You know what I mean? And that's what really faith's out about, being grateful for that little rock that you got moved. It
Mm-hmm.
may not be the whole answer. It might not be what you wanted at the time, but hey, be grateful that it's at least one rock at a time.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit here and a little bit there, and things, and you're gonna start seeing that shift that is happening, and no answer is gonna come to you the next day, but in the process, remember, because the process, what it's doing is growing you, maturing you. So that process of change and of growing, and so that one stone at a time, one stone at a time. I think that's a perfect illustration to use, like, because I tell you what, moving a whole mountain, if you try to move the whole mountain like you said at one time, that's gonna stress someone out. That's gonna put someone in worry and chaos, and they're gonna do what? I'm done. I ain't gonna do that. But
Yeah.
if you focus on your first day on what's ahead of you, one stone at a time, here we go. And you're gonna find by the time you look up, you're gonna realize, hey, I'm actually now at top of the mountain that you were trying to move. And that's what it is. Do it one day at a time. Don't try to solve it all at once. It's all gonna come to play. It's all gonna happen for the good for you. Just hold on tight and move that one stone at a time.
Beautiful said, man. Beautifully said. I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, that is, I think, the whole in a whole of what endurance during challenging moments is all
Yeah.
about. You know, and I mean, that's just powerful. I mean, I could be here for hours talking about this because it's a beautiful thing, but I know I want to save you time to enjoy the rest of your day as well. So I mean, we got to keep doing this, talking about stuff like this. But thank you so much. Well, before we leave, I always like to say something to the audience. What's one encouragement thing that you would say to them? It can be anything with what we said today, or anything that you want, something encouraging or inspirational, whatever you want. What would something that they can take home with them and use it for their life?
This is what I like to tell people. I said, don't quit today, because tomorrow might be your victory.
Mm.
Say, don't quit today, because tomorrow your victory may show up. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, we quit too early, and our victory is right next door. And so, don't quit today. Your victory might be tomorrow. So hey, if my victory might be tomorrow, I tell people, I'll take that challenge. I'll take that chance for my victory tomorrow. I may not be experienced today, but I'll take the challenge. I'll take the chance tomorrow. So I'm not gonna quit today. Don't quit today. You know, tomorrow might be that answer you be looking for. Tomorrow may be that prayer you be praying for. Tomorrow may come. So just hold on tight. Keep believing what you believe in. Keep holding on, and you see good days come ahead.
There you go. There you go. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. Will, thank you so much for being with us today. My goodness, I'm telling you, it's a powerful, powerful message that you gave today, especially how we built up on, endurance during challenging time. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you, John. I really appreciate it, man. Like I said, it was my first podcast, and I think it was awesome, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you did amazing. You were perfect. You were perfect, man. Once again, thank you, Will, for joining us today on Make Limited Podcast. And everyone out there, thank you so much for listening and tuning in. I hope that you were inspired and motivated to be better humans. All right, you have reached the end of today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode. I hope that you are inspired, motivated to be better humans. Again, we'll be starting a new chapter for the second quarter of the year talking about the process. So become part of the Make Limited family and let us know how Make Limited Podcast is making you a better human by going to our Facebook or Instagram page at Make Limited Podcast. Catch us on our next episode where we'll be talking about the process of making McDonald's. It's going to be incredible. Until then, stay awesome, and I'll be talking to you later. Peace.
Peace.